Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Suicide Squad live Spoilercast. I am Steve Baxey. Joining me today is Eric.
I'm Eric.
At least I think. There he is. There's a weird lag, I guess. And Rasco.
Oh, great.
Hello, everybody.
Yep, there's definitely a lag. So Captain Logan's not here right now. He is off doing things that are way more fun. Curious Low did not see the movie. Dan did not see the movie, and Manos did not see the movie. So it's just the three of us here to talk about the third film in the DC Extended Universe. So this will be fun. I think all of us are kind of on the same page, just on varying degrees. Um, we'll do this. We'll start this as we always do, where everyone goes around and says their best thing, worst thing. But just because we are almost all of the same opinion, I think it might be helpful if we led mostly with what we liked about the movie before going full blown negative territory. But first off, Eric, why don't you go ahead and tell us your best thing about the movie and the worst thing about the movie?
I think the best thing about the movie is hands down easily Captain Boomerang. He's just hysterical, and with the exception of once where I think a joke doesn't work, I think I laughed every time he did or said anything. I thought he was just, I want a Captain Boomerang movie. Like, they're talking about doing the Harley Quinn movie. I don't care about that. I want a Captain Boomerang movie. Um, Um, this is kind of a movie, but this movie is clearly cut to ribbons and pieced back together. There's a leaked list of deleted scenes. If those deleted scenes are right and we get a director's cut, my worst thing is Harley and the Joker. I think Harley and the Joker are awful. I think they're complete misunderstandings and misrepresentations of those characters. I'm actually a fan of those characters liking their relationship in this film. Such a bad representation. I don't want to say that they don't get it, because if those deleted scenes are true, it sounds like they did their relationship correctly, but they did not. It's really bad in this movie.
You cut in a little bit in and out there, but essentially,
Worth thing.
I think essentially what you said was just that the Joker-Harley relationship is awful, but if that list of deleted scenes is true, then they probably got it and the edits were just bad, right? I think that's right. Weird lag tonight. Anyway, Rasco, why don't you go ahead and tell us your best thing, worst thing?
Well, so there's a lot of things on the first. I've seen this movie twice now, and there's a lot of things that I kind of liked on the first viewing, and then the second time I watched it, I liked it way less. So Harley was one of those things where the first time around, I guess I just really liked that casting, so I was just like, okay, I like Harley. Second time around, Harley, there's a lot of things that Harley did that really kind of bothered me. They were kind of cliche things also, but I still did on the second viewing like Will Smith's Deadshot. Like, I like that performance, and I can see if people don't think that that's Deadshot, but at least Will Smith gave a good performance, I can say. I did like Captain Boomerang, the same as Eric, and I don't know. I did not like a whole lot of stuff in this movie the second time around, so that's really about all I can say that I really liked about the movie on both viewings.
And then what would you say your worst thing was?
Oh, my worst thing? I would agree that the editing of this movie is so transparent. Like, all the background meddling is so transparently there that it's like, that's the worst thing, is that I can literally see the thought process of what they were thinking when they cut this movie up and pieced it back together. I can literally see that on the screen.
Yeah, it's a weird experience because every time I watch it, every time I think about it, and I'm in the theater, I just think, like, clearly this scene was supposed to be here and that scene was supposed to be here, and there's a thing missing here. Like, it's a really bizarre puzzle. My worst thing is probably gonna go to, because there's a lot for me to dislike it and harp on, but my worst thing is gonna be, this is not a Suicide Squad movie. even if all those deleted scenes come back in and they re-edit this movie, this is not a Suicide Squad movie. This is basically taking a very niche thing and trying to force it to be what like a mainstream vision of it might be. It feels like someone thought they wanted to do the Avengers except make all the heroes bad guys, and that's not really the Suicide Squad. It seems like they went out of their way to just put in big names and not really think about what the premise means. The whole point of the Suicide Squad is the U.S. government wants to do something that they can't be caught doing, so they send in a bunch of villains to do it, and if they get caught, that's fine. They can throw them under the bus because they're bad guys. If they don't get caught, cool. The U.S. government gets what they wanted. It's a very Black Ops political thing, and that is not this movie. There is no version of this movie that is that premise. And that's what's the most irritating thing about it. I think everything just boils down to, if you just made this a Suicide Squad movie, it probably would have made more sense. As for best thing, I liked Will Smith as Deadshot. Yeah, he's not Deadshot, but you're right, he did give a good performance. Overall, though, I think the best thing about the movie is that scene in the bar where all of them are just kind of like sitting there defeated, and just like you learn El Diablo's backstory, and you get like that moment where Will Smith's like, don't forget we're the bad guys, and they're just kind of like somberly hanging out and knowing everything's going to hell. I feel like, as Eric and I talked about this, I feel like that scene was supposed to be the movie, and it just got left in when the other guys were doing their edits. Because apparently this movie's edited by the people that did the trailer. So it very clearly feels like that scene was not part of this vision of the movie, despite it possibly lining up with David Ayer's vision of the movie. I guess the big thing for all of us is just that there is a movie in here that's probably pretty good, but what we ended up getting was something that was very clearly mishandled by the studio. Yeah?
I think it's two things. I think it's the studio didn't understand what Suicide Squad was, and then also they had a very specific vision that they wanted it to be, and both of those were incompatible.
I think it's hard to with something like, say, Batman v Superman. I feel like it's very clear that movie is Zack Snyder's vision. That movie is what he wants it to be. And with this, I don't hate this movie. I have trouble hating this movie. One, because I did actually get some enjoyment out of it, but two, it is not the movie any of these people made. So it's hard for me to really be down on this, because it's not. I don't feel like this is a fair representation of the work that they put in.
Yeah, because all the actors are coming out and being very vocal against the critics and stuff, and it seems like they are happy with what they made, but the studio clearly mucked with it. Jared Leto is extremely mad that most of his Joker material was just cut. And I mean, considering all the awful stuff he did on set, the performance he gave in this cut is really underwhelming and in places just flat out bad. But if you gave me more scenes, he probably worked, and it probably lended itself more to everything that he was doing on set. He probably has more character. He was more of a psychopath. There's probably more to the actual acting, even if the script didn't support it. And we just don't see that in this movie, and it's really disappointing if you were expecting to go into this just for Jared Leto, because he's hardly in it, and what he gives us just isn't very good.
And it's inconsistent, which is another thing. The Joker-Harley relationship is inconsistent in this. Most of the movie, they completely don't understand it, and then there's one scene where it seems like that's a very Joker thing, when he ditches Harley in the Lamborghini, when he drives it into the water, and she's like, I can't swim, and then he's not there when Batman goes underwater. That's a Joker move, but then Joker trying to find Harley throughout the rest of the movie, that's not a very Joker-like thing. And that's why I can't. It's absolutely ridiculous that they're David Ayer and people are saying oh, this is for the fans, because no, it's not for the fans. If it was for the fans, you would do everything you could to make it true to the comics. And I'm not saying that because they didn't do what exactly is in the comics, I'm not saying that that's an inherently bad thing. I'm saying you can't say it's for the fans and then not represent the comic book characters accurately. Not that those are inherently issues, though.
Yeah, it's just a matter of, like, if it's for the fans, well, I'm a fan of the Joker, I'm a fan of Suicide Squad comics, I'm a fan of DC. None of those boxes were checked by this movie, so fans of what?
Yeah.
It's just a weird thing with the
I think.
Good.
Sorry. I think based on the film that they put out, I think Leto is easily the weakest live-action Joker we've ever had. It's a very generic. It doesn't feel like he had a take in the performance. It was just like, well, that's crazy, and so he acted kind of crazy. I think of Harley and the Joker in the released film is basically the opposite of their relationship. It is a beautifully awful couple. It's a Bonnie and Clyde thing, and that's not what their relationship is at all. I think I actually might have been okay with the majority of what they did with Joker and Harley if the ending scene was some kind of joke to the penitentiary, and Harley's like, "Oh, you came for me," and then he's just like, "You have my dry cleaning ticket," and then just leaves. Like, maybe that could have been fun. It would have made it feel like about her. We're cutting this movie.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'd almost have to, like, do more with because apparently the way Margot Robbie and Jared Leto talked about this in interviews leading up to it is that they were doing a take where Harley is completely obsessed with Joker, and Joker is just stringing her along, and so the movie's arc was supposed to be that Harley starts to come into her own independent of the Joker, that it was supposed to be by the end of the film, if Joker came back for her, she wouldn't take him. And that's not what we got, and ultimately I think what you needed is you needed either to do that arc, and if you didn't, you needed a reason for Joker to want to have her back that has nothing to do with her as a person. Like, it has to be she has something, or she knows something, or there's something he wants to do with her. Like, there needs to be, like, a physical reason to have her that has nothing to do with her identity. Because as it stands, it just looks like he misses his girlfriend.
Yeah, so after me and Cap recorded the How We Felt About, he actually came up with a really, really awesome idea, and we, through this idea, kind of developed how you integrate the Joker into the story in a natural way that is more true to Joker and Harley comic book relationship. And so Joker should be trying to find Harley, not because he wants Harley, but because he wants Amanda Waller's cell phone with all the Suicide Squad detonation things on it, so that Joker, he's trying to find Harley, and then when he gets there, he's like, I don't want you, I want that phone, and then he has the phone, and then he is now in control of the Suicide Squad, essentially, because he can blackmail them, and the whole time you think he's trying to find Harley, but he's actually just trying to find the phone. And then that's a very Joker-like scheme, where now he has control of the Suicide Squad, essentially.
Joker being in charge of the Suicide Squad is actually a really cool idea. I think that would be interesting.
And that's just such a more natural way to integrate him into the story, and that's true to the relationship.
That's kind of what they do in Assault on Arkham, which is kind of strangely the better version of this movie.
Yeah, it's weird to say, because I didn't really like Assault on Arkham, but it's head and shoulders better than this.
And it's a very similar story and setup.
Yeah. We'll definitely go on more like the negative stuff. I do want to spend some time on aspects of the movie that we liked, just
well,
so. Sorry, go ahead.
I can. There's a moment with Harley that I absolutely love. I think for the most part, Margot Robbie turned in a performance that I think any actress would have turned in. I don't think she was in any way special in this role. And I didn't love how she just was. Like, I don't like Harley usually anyways. There's a moment in this that I loved, and I have to inspired by like moments, which comes from Azzarello's Joker graphic novel. So there is no someone on this film didn't read, because there's a lot of Azzarello's Joker in this Joker. And while I kind of liked it in that, I didn't really need that to be a movie. But in that graphic novel, there's a scene that I love. It's one of my favorite Joker scenes where Azzarello takes this really rich on the Joker, where Joker in real life, he would have lows just as much as he has highs. And there's a scene in that graphic novel where the main character, who's a thug that's worked for the Joker, in the bedroom, and Joker's just sobbing, and Harley's holding him. And there's a scene that's similar to that in this, after the helicopter crashes, and Harley is just sitting on the cry, or switch. And then the second she sees everyone else, she acts like nothing's wrong. She's like, "Hey, guys!" I thought that scene was great, and I wish I cared about her character leading up to that scene, because I really, really liked that.
Yeah, that's a good scene. She turned in a pretty good performance there, and I think that's another very loose moment where, like, clearly this is something David Ayer shot, and it would have worked in his context.
There's a lot of scenes in this movie where they're shot, and like the way they were shot, it seems like they were intended to be shown in a completely different context. So, like, when Joker walks in the room and he's like, "I'm not gonna hurt you, I'm just," and he walks in the flashback to, like, Harley's origin. He walks in, he's like, "What do we have here?" And then he, like, shocks Harley. That scene feels like it was supposed to be like a long, drawn out, scary, intense scene with Harley and the Joker, and it's cut down to be like this crazy, like, slideshow-esque acid trip. And it's like, I don't think that was the context that scene was originally shot in.
Yeah, because there's more stuff in the trailers, specifically in that room, of, like, Joker sort of going to work on Harley. And clearly there was supposed to be more of that. I imagine we'll get at least more of that stuff in the DVD. But that is a really interesting scene, and that's one of the first things we saw of Joker when this movie was being made. We had two very clear things from set photos. We had things of Joker outside the purple Lamborghini with Harley, where, like, she pulls a gun on him and he slaps her. That we didn't see that movie, and then very early on, in that first trailer, we got that tease where Joker says, "I'm not going to kill you," and then lots of set photos saw him, like, going into the set where they were about to film that. So it seemed like the two big Joker scenes were supposed to be him torturing Harley and everything around that Lamborghini thing. The way the movie's cut, it looks like he kills that gangster in the club and then just, like, drives out with Harley in the car. But it seems like there was supposed to be, like, this whole progression between those things. And then even that doesn't necessarily make sense, because she's already Harley Quinn in that purple Lamborghini, but then in the set photos, she's still, like, Dr. Harleen Quinzel, and he just has the Lamborghini. So it's really weirdly cut, where I don't entirely know what the continuity of their relationship is.
Well, and it's very clear that the first, because this movie doesn't actually start for like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
If nobody's seen this film, if you've seen the trailer, Amanda Waller has that, like, speech about the Suicide Squad while she's eating. That's movie, and it seems like it was probably as, like, a rapid fire running through the characters, but there's like a 5 to 10 minute scene with Deadshot, and then a 5 to 10 minute scene with Harley, and, like, it is 30 minutes before this movie starts, and that first 30 minutes when we're flashing all around the rest of the film, it's more colorful. They've got that first 30 minutes is cut like the trailer. It looks almost like an acid trip version of, like, Scott Pilgrim or something.
Yeah, it's like
the rest of the movie like that. And that first 30 minutes is also where we have the most pandering, obvious soundtrack ever as well. It's like they completely
in 15 minutes. It's really irritating.
And it's all the most popular radio hit songs. There is not a single song where you're like, "Oh, I forgot about that song," or, "Oh, I haven't heard of that." They are all, like, top 4 radio songs.
Yeah.
Like, the middle of the movie is trimmed down, and the end of the movie might be entirely intact. everything
I think the
in that
third
opening,
acting
and it
almost
feels like a completely
confirmed.
different movie.
I think the third acting is almost confirmed because when the reshoot rumors surfaced, there was a while where we were speculating about everything that it seems like is pretty much true. And then David Ayer came out and says, no, it was just a matter of adding more action scenes that I wanted and smoothing out the third act. When he says smoothing out the third act, it seems like what he actually meant in the case of this movie is just remaking the third act. Because I don't see like the somber atmosphere of the middle of this movie leading to that finale. I wouldn't be surprised if that reveal with Amanda Waller being in the city wasn't even supposed to be a reveal. That it was supposed to be she's stuck there, go send in the squad, and that's what we're doing from point one.
Exactly. I think that they literally went back and said, okay, how can we make this third act a little bit more interesting? And so, like, I think that, you know, the scene where Deadshot finds the binder of the top secret information and then throws it at Rick Flag, and it's like this really awkward reveal. It's so weird because when it first shows that scene play out, where they go into the subway and they're looking for Incubus, and then Enchantress, like, you see Rick Flag talking to her, and he's like, you just gotta do this, and you gotta teleport there and come back, and that's all you gotta do. And then it cuts to Amanda Waller, and he's like, she ran, she jolted. And then later on, they reveal, we already knew that she, like, was there with Rick Flag in the subway and then, like, left. But the only thing we reveal is that there was a bomb in their hand. But it's like, if you watch that scene around the first time, it feels like that wasn't supposed to be reveal. And later on in the movie, they just, like, chopped the actual shot of the bomb, and then they moved that to, like, the flashback later on where Rick Flag explains what happened in the subway.
There needs to be, even with the scenes we've got, we need some kind of fan edit to make it so, like, the flashbacks don't operate as flashbacks and we're just watching things chronologically, because I really feel like the flashbacks were supposed to be reserved for Harley Quinn. I feel like that's what we were supposed to do, and everything else is just going forward and exploring these characters in context. It's really awkward in places where, like, we do all this stuff with Harley Quinn for like 5-10 minutes in the opening, and then randomly in the middle of the action we flash back again to the pit, to like the acid pit she fell into. Why would you do that in the middle, having her reminded of something, as opposed to the front loading like you already did? And if you were gonna, like, put it in sprinkled in places, why didn't you do that all the way through? It almost feels like the people that edited this movie didn't actually watch their final cut outside of, like, the first 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when you get to the third act, specifically the bar scene, it's very clear you are getting, like, character payoffs for arcs that weren't set up.
Yeah.
I really like that bar scene, and I can only assume that bar scene is representative of the film they made. This is where that never happens. We cut all of the character scenes, and then we get to the end, and it's like, oh, we're friends now. Well, we missed them becoming friends.
Yeah, that El Diablo line where he's like, I lost one family, I'm not going to lose another one. That line doesn't play. Like, that just doesn't, I don't feel anything for that. Like, I just don't buy that he considers these new people to be his family. They literally had, like, one conversation, and that's it.
And I mean, I really liked El Diablo.
The only time he's ever talked to is Deadshot calling him out for not like fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I really liked El Diablo for a while. Like, I liked that he was just kind of in the background for most of it, and everyone was antagonizing him until that bar scene, and then he reveals a really great backstory, and then suddenly everything in the middle is just cut, and now they're all friends and happy-go-lucky again, and it's really weird. And the thing with, like, his weird fire god form, I don't know what's up with that. Okay, fine, maybe he has more power than he's letting on, but at the same time, it's weird that him and Incubus look so similar, and that he is just able to do this now, and no one seems to be, like, questioning where that came from.
I wasn't bugged by that. I assume, well, especially because how, like, when he gets angry, it's like he goes away and he's another person, and so I think he's just possessed by a fire demon. It didn't bug me.
And Red Leader
He was
Antilles,
talking to the fire elemental within him.
Red
Sorry.
Leader Antilles just left a comment saying, why did Katana go into the bar with them? And then he said that that must have been set up earlier. And I agree. Yeah, why does she just randomly go, oh, I'm going to go into the bar with the rest of the Suicide Squad because Will Smith just revealed something that is I don't know. Like that, he's right. That is really strange that she would all of a sudden side with the
Katana
Suicide Squad right there.
Croc in this part of the film feels like they could have not existed. So much so that when we get the reveal of like that she talks to her father and her sword, it felt like a comedian set up the punchline for his joke. Like it was just like, oh wait, did we mention this? Oh crap! Quick, mention it. And I think I can only assume that the way that the ending plays, chick that becomes the Enchantress is supposed to be in her. Only thing that makes sense to me, because that ending is so weak, and we for no reason Harley cuts her with Katana's sword that sucks souls. I feel like there's another kind of a not a thing like Rick can still talk to her.
Yeah, that's I like we talked about this before when you first saw it, but like clearly there's an ending to this movie that's meant to be more depressing than it is, because they play Bohemian Rhapsody at the end, and it's the most unfitting use of that song ever, because everyone in that moment has something to live for or look forward to, and you're playing a song that's all about nothing matters. So it seems like with the Soul Taker sword and what potentially set up there, maybe June gets stuck inside the sword, or maybe she dies completely, or like maybe some other member of the squad dies and gets stuck in there. It feels like maybe there should have been like a bonding of them. Then one of them dies, and then all of them are in shock by it, and that's the end of the movie. Like with a movie called Suicide Squad, you almost expect someone to die by the end.
That's the thing. Like Rick Flag, if June Moon had died, is it June Moon?
Yeah, June Moon.
Yeah, if she had died, then that would have given Rick Flag such a better reason to, like, in a sequel, kind of see the Suicide Squad as a little bit more of something like a family for him personally, because then he would have lost something that he cared about, very similar to pretty much every other member of the Suicide Squad. But they didn't do that, and I just groaned when I watched that, because I'm like, see, that is the best, easiest, cliche, feel-good way to end your movie. And everything leading up to it should say, hey, look, she shouldn't live in the end, and that should give Rick Flag a reason to kind of bond with the Suicide Squad even more moving forward. But no, they don't do it. It would have made it more interesting.
It's like Avatar: Last Airbender, where in that show, when you get to the final 5 episodes, every episode is saying you need to kill the Fire Lord. If you don't kill the Fire Lord, you're an idiot, you're selfish. And then you get to the end, and the Fire Lord doesn't die because Nickelodeon censors wouldn't allow it to happen. It feels like the entire movie was building to her death, and then she didn't die.
Yeah.
I with the Enchantress is because, well, first of all, I feel like that whole plot is a little large scale for this movie, and all of that is kind of nothing, and I think that would have worked better if this was a character film where the plot wasn't really that important. I think they should have leaned into the schlockiness of horror. Like, if I don't want to remake this movie, but like if I was making this movie, I would have taken all that stuff or like Big Trouble in Little China with it, like make all of that easier, because as it is, it's just bland.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to capture the Deadpool Guardians vibe, then you, with this particular story, then almost maybe not even make it a Suicide Squad thing. Maybe just make it like a Secret Six thing of like, this is just kind of weird and nonsensical, but we're having fun with it. There's a lot of things.
Well, I think part of it is I don't think they made a movie. Sorry.
It's lag. It's really laggy.
It's This
Yeah,
lag is on.
part of the issue with the movie is just that very clearly there are competing visions for this, like we keep saying, and I would love to see a director's cut of this, but I'm almost positive we're not going to get one because it seems like so much of what was cut just completely alters what happens in this movie and the continuity of the universe. And so, if you make a director's cut, you'd really have a question of like which one of these matters. It's not like BVS where like you're just adding scenes that answer questions. This you literally have to go back and completely recut the movie.
Yeah. I think it's really funny how everything with Katana is just Rick Flag saying something
Well,
about her.
Well,
This
and
is
based
Katana.
on what those rumored deleted scenes with Harley and the Joker are, that would completely change them moving forward.
Yeah.
If they show up again for this movie.
Yeah. It would be really awkward to like retroactively put the abusive relationship thing in. Rascal, what were you saying?
I was just saying, it's really funny how like pretty much everything that we learn about like Katana is literally just Rick Flag saying something about Katana. Like he's just like, "This is Katana. She can cut you in half with one sword stroke." And then like later on in the movie, he's like, "That's her sword. Her husband was killed by it. Now she talks to him." Like everything with Katana is literally just Rick Flag explaining stuff about her.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. There's a lot of weird exposition in this where, like, the entire movie, the one big thing they set up is if you break the Enchantress's heart, she dies. Then Waller stabs it, and then she's all right because her brother gave her power. And then at the end of the movie, again, the whole thing is go after her heart, go after her heart, go after her heart. And then when she's down, Rick Flag has to go like, look, we have her heart. That means we can hurt her. Like, it's really awkwardly put in where it seems like the exposition is there because of reshoots, not because the message wasn't previously conveyed. Like, there's lots of weird, like, jokes and lines, particularly from Flag, that feel like they were just thrown in as inserts.
Yeah.
One other thing I want to mention about just Rick Flag, though, before we move on, is this movie didn't feel like it cared enough about the character of Rick Flag to even let us know whether or not he's Rick Flag Sr. or Rick Flag Jr. Because Suicide Squad comics follow Rick Flag Jr. There's a whole thing with the fact that he's his father's son and his dad killing himself on a mission, and there's like a whole psychological issue between him and his dad and him calling himself Rick Flag. And this movie takes a character that you would expect to be a stereotypical soldier, but in the comics is this brilliant, multi-layered character, and just turns him into a stereotypical soldier.
Yeah, we don't even... I thought it was so funny when, like, Amanda Waller's in the beginning is like, and I predicted that they would wind up falling in love. And I'm just like, there are scenes there that establish a relationship that are just completely cut out. Like, there has to be scenes there that establish why they care about each other. But it's just not there. We get it in a single line from Amanda Waller that I planned that they would fall in love with each other.
Yeah, that really bugged me. I mean, I can buy Amanda Waller would try to manipulate a relationship, but there's no way she'd know whether or not it worked.
Yeah. And also, here's the thing where I feel like something got cut and then they didn't iron out the inconsistency. So Deadshot's like, I'm going to kill Rick Flag. He tells Harley that, and he's like, she's like, well, what about the explosive things? And he's like, isn't your friend going to take care of that? And then later on in the movie, when Joker shows up to get Harley, like for some reason, Will Smith's all of a sudden like, no, Harley, don't do it, don't leave, don't go. And then she goes, and it's like, it's weird because, it's strange because Will Smith had no reason to believe that Joker was gonna like disable the nanites for everyone, but like early on in the movie, he assumes that when Joker shows up, Joker will disable all of their nanites so that he will have an opportunity to kill Rick Flag, because you keep seeing Deadshot every time Rick Flag's about to be like taken away by the black ooze monsters. He's like, he dies, we die. But then later on, Will Smith is like, don't go, Harley, don't go. But what changed there? Like, why all of a sudden does he not want to kill Rick Flag when they make a very specific point that Will Smith is like, I'm gonna kill him. He's like, I'm gonna take out the girl with the sword and him and like, I just don't understand what happened there. That's so weird and inconsistent, and they never answer any question.
Deadshot seems to be the only character in the movie that has an arc that is teased in the beginning and goes all the way through to the end. But like you said, the problem is just that it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's so strange.
Everyone else has a beginning and they have an end and all the middle is gone. Deadshot is a focus throughout the whole movie, and I still don't actually understand him. Eric dropped in and out really quick. Hopefully the lag is better now, but
Can you hear me?
Yes. There we go.
Okay, it doesn't seem like it's lagging that bad.
Okay, cool. It seems like we're all right then. But yeah, there's just so much of this movie where I'm like, I want to see what David Ayer made, because the way it plays, it feels like he made the DC Universe version of Fury. And if that's what he made, that's awesome. But we didn't get that, and
Yeah.
I have a hard time finding anything about the movie that I like without adding the caveat of, if this was the original cut, it would have been better.
Yeah, I was hoping that it was kind of like the DC Universe version of Fury also. That was why I was excited with that choice of director at first, but like, I don't know, it feels like DC very, like, this is not a movie that I think David Ayer would ever make on his own. Like, as it is right now, this isn't something that David Ayer would have made had it not been tampered with by outside forces.
Yeah. It seems like maybe we'll have a Daredevil case with this, but that only depends on whether or not we actually get a director's cut.
I hope they do. Although I also hope that they don't have to, like, every time they release a movie, be like, oh no, that wasn't the real movie. Wait for the Ultimate Edition.
Yeah, and what version is canonical?
Yeah, I mean that's just the bigger issue of, like, with BVS, fine, there were just added scenes. With this, it's just a matter of, like, literally things are completely different. I want to go to a comment really quick, just because I want to address this head on with certain people. But Stefan Ola says the plot is clear. You know enough about the characters you're following. It was funny, great action. Sorry, it's not a Marvel film. It's got nothing to do with whether or not it's a Marvel film. Okay, clearly they made this funnier because of the reaction to BVS. But like Eric keeps saying, BVS was not bad because it was dark. It was bad because it was bad. The action, fine, maybe some of that's subjective, but really clearly the problem here is everyone is going to go into this movie wanting nothing but, like, a cheap thrill, and if you got that, cool. But the bigger issue for us is just, this was a movie that was meant to be deeper than that, and it's really obvious in places that it was going to be deeper, but it was just mucked with. That what you're getting is just a shell of what the movie was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, saying the plot is clear is pretty easy because this movie doesn't have one. And I don't mean that as a criticism. It is literally just people get dropped into a city, and sure, that's completely... I disagree strongly with that comment about the characters. I think Deadshot is played well, but not written, like, on the page is not particularly understandable as a character. I think Harley is nothing. Killer Croc is a Katana's movie. Captain Boomerang's funny, and Rick Flag is the only character I think that maybe makes sense.
Yeah, like,
I'm forgetting. Pablo's good.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of this movie is just open and vague, and it was meant to be plot second, character study first, and we kind of cut all the character stuff out. We rearranged this to be really punchy, and even the punches I don't think really delivered. I feel like the action in this was just really bland.
Yeah,
I just want to...
Yeah, that first fight, standing and shooting at monsters coming at them.
Yeah. I was just going to point out, I've seen a lot of people say that David Ayer has said multiple times that this cut of the version of the movie is his director's cut. Like, no, this is not some other studio meddled version. This is my version of the movie. And you cannot you cannot trust a director when they say that. Because the only time a director has straight out come out and said, no, the studio messed with it and this was not my version of the movie, that was Josh Trank. Josh Trank doesn't have a career anymore. You can't, if you're a director, unless you're an actor, you cannot come out and condemn a project that you've been working on and say the studio messed with it. You can't do that, or else the studio will drop you. They don't care about you. They only care about directors because you can't replace someone like Will Smith. He's Will Smith. But like someone like David Ayer, if he came out and said, "Oh no, yeah, this was not my original vision. The studio came in, they changed things around. They had their own cut. I had my own cut. We had to meet somewhere in the middle. Blah blah blah." He's done. He would not. They would drop him from the project, from the sequel and the franchise immediately.
I think it's really funny that we're talking about this movie with this particular set of issues, because exactly 1 year ago, exactly 1 year ago today is when the Fantastic Four came out. This is literally that date exactly. This is exactly when that movie, and this is exactly when most of us saw it.
Yeah. Wow. But I also want to point this out. Like, don't
I've not seen that film.
I'm not saying David Ayer's a liar or anything. I'm saying that he's doing what he has to do to protect his career. He has to say that this is his version of the movie. He can't not stand by it at this point, or else they will drop him if he's bad PR. They'll drop him.
That happens all the time with movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder because I don't know how Josh Trank ever accepts like a working deal with Warner Brothers again at this point. Like, there's no way he's coming back for Suicide Squad 2 at this point, right?
You mean David Ayer? You said Josh Trank. You mean David Ayer?
Or David Ayer? Yeah, sorry.
I don't know. Like, I don't know. That will be really telling.
I don't think he would want to come back after this experience.
Yeah, like I just see no reason for him to be back on this property unless he's like contractually bound to.
Yeah. I don't know.
There's
probably hear David Ayer's real feelings about this film, whether they are positive or negative, in like films. Like after he's made another film or two and he's not really more, he'll probably, like, in some interview, someone will ask him about it, and you'll get, like, a reaction. That's kind of the way it is with directors. You'll talk about and things like that.
Yeah, and Ayer's he's a pretty important director right now. He's made movies that have gotten Oscar buzz before. Actors in his movies have gotten Oscars before. Like, he's a pretty sought-after director. I think if he makes a couple more movies, he has enough clout to disown this if he wants to.
Can I also point this out? This might be a little telling. David Ayer's next movie that he's directing is Bright, the Max Landis screenplay. He's directing Bright for Netflix. And people who make stuff for Netflix have always said that Netflix is notoriously known for being incredibly easy to work with. They don't give you many notes on your screenplays. You know, you give them a script, they take it, they may ask you to change one or two things, they give it back to you. They're apparently incredibly easy to work with. The fact that David Ayer's next movie is a Netflix movie might key us into the fact that maybe he's really fed up with the studio system, and that because of his experience with Suicide Squad, he's moving to Netflix now.
And apparently, Bright was supposed to be David Ayer and Max Landis at Warner Brothers, but Warner Brothers said no after the reaction to BVS and altering this movie.
Wow.
So, maybe both parties are just fed up. Maybe Warner Brothers doesn't want Ayer back just as much as Ayer doesn't want to be with Warner Brothers again.
Wow.
Like, this is crazy. I feel like there's a lot of interesting behind-the-scenes stuff with this movie that we probably aren't going to get because, unlike Fantastic Four, at least it made some money.
Yeah.
I think we'll see a sequel, though. If this universe keeps trucking along and barely making money like it's been, certainly Wonder Woman will get a sequel. Certainly Justice League will get a sequel. I don't know if this movie gets a sequel.
Yeah, I mean, part of it is just, I don't know what you do with a sequel to this movie. By the end of this movie, Amanda Waller should be fired and Task Force X should be disbanded, right? Because not only is everything her fault, but literally everything went wrong on their mission. Why would the government in any way, shape, or form want to continue this operation? Some of that goes into the post-credit scene, which I don't know if that scene makes any sense. So in the post-credit scene, Bruce Wayne shows up, and he's like, I'll protect you from the fallout of the Enchantress incident if you give me files of metahumans, and he's going to go get the Justice League. One, if you have files of metahumans like Justice League level, why didn't you just use Enchantress to get them to join your squad instead of Captain Boomerang? And two, how is Bruce Wayne going to protect her from anything? Like, what power does he hold from the government firing her or something? Like, I don't understand that. So, like, I don't understand how you keep the suicide...
It's just controlled by rich people.
That's true. I guess that's fair. And then also my favorite criticism of this movie is that in every movie that deals with the U.S. government, there's always someone that says we should nuke it, and that never works. This is the only movie I've ever seen where if the government just said nuke the area, it would have worked.
Yeah.
There's no people there.
Yeah.
Also,
you could have just nuked it. You would have been fine.
Here's a question I have. Why does Enchantress not just grab the briefcase with her heart in it when she goes to get her brother and, like, it's sitting right next to Amanda Waller on that bed? I don't understand that.
Is there, like, a bomb on it or something?
That means something.
I don't know, because later on, the, like, black goo monsters carry the briefcase with the heart in it to Enchantress towards the end of the movie. And also, why didn't Amanda Waller just destroy the heart, killing Enchantress and ending the entire threat? Also, why when their helicopter gets shot down out of the sky, do they not question why they just got shot out of the sky? They just crash and they're like, well, that was the plan. I don't understand what happened there.
She does stab it, but for some reason that doesn't work. I don't understand how, like, her brother's power is enough to sustain her. The whole Enchantress plan is just kind of nonsensical and oftentimes hilarious. When we get to the end and we just have that ridiculous slow motion throwing the bomb in and Deadshot firing, it comes to this point where Enchantress just kind of beats herself. If she just stood there, it'd be fine. But no, she had to go in and, like, project herself to start fighting off the squad. If she didn't do that, she would have been perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Although, that is, I don't care how many times we say the word machine. A swirling vortex of magic with, like, some metal is not a machine. She did not make a machine.
I also don't understand the whole mankind worships machines now. Where is she getting that from?
See, that was just the basic sprinkles of of a motivation for a character. Like, the thing that was so awkward about watching those Enchantress scenes with her brother is that I'm just like, I'm sitting in a room right now with a bunch of people watching this movie, and I know nobody cares what they're talking about right now. Like, it was so awkward feeling. I was just like, no one cares what Enchantress is talking about. Everyone's just waiting for this scene to end.
Yeah,
well, and I feel like you could get away with a driven film like I think it was. I think not having a villain you really care about, like, look at Guardians. Guardians is the exact same kind of thing. It would have been, Guardians is obviously much lighter than this film probably was originally made to be, but Guardians is a film that gets away with having an incredibly weak villain because it's all about the characters and the character dynamics.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would almost compare it to Iron Man, but then you're right, it is more of a Guardians thing. But just a case of, like, Obadiah Stane's plan doesn't really make any sense, but who cares because it's about Tony's journey through these events.
And it's a giant plot hole at the end of that movie.
Exactly. But, like, there's certainly, like, the makings of, like, a pure character study out of this movie, and I'm sure David Ayer did that. We just didn't really get it. I kind of feel bad for this cast. I mean, I hate the fact that they just keep throwing out the lines that it's for the fans and that they're just, like, bad-mouthing critics. But I still feel bad for them because I think some of them turned in really good performances and a lot of their stuff just wasn't there. I'm sure the guy that plays Killer Croc had, like, hours and hours and hours to spend in that makeup chair, and he looked fantastic, and he got nothing but bad jokes.
I know. Killer Croc is just not a character in this movie. And, like, here's the thing. not everyone has to be a character. Like there are a lot of has to be a character at the forefront. There are a lot of X-Men movies where three characters, the movie will focus on three characters, everyone else is just kind of there. But what's different is that an X-Men movie doesn't do a 35-minute long segment of a big splash page of this is his character, this is his name, these are all the statistics and his background and stuff, and then we don't get a whole scene with that character like, oh, this character is like this because of this. This is how you should think of this character, blah, 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 blah. That is a waste of time, and you don't need to do that if you're not going to make Killer Croc an actual character, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. It's weirdly inconsistent because some characters have like 5 to 10 minute sequence of origin, and then other characters are just kind of like rushed through. And I have a hard time knowing like who am I really supposed to care about. And it seems like the entire squad. It seems like as far as Warner Brothers is concerned, this is a movie about Rick Flag, Deadshot, and Harley Quinn. It seems like they didn't even care enough about the Joker, and if that's what they wanted, if they wanted a Harley Quinn, Deadshot, Rick Flag movie, maybe just go with that. I don't really understand, like, because clearly
I think you can. I think you can do a movie that's a team where it's anchored on the three of them. I mean, that's what Star Trek is. Star Trek is an ensemble piece anchored on three of them. I think it's fine to have Rick Flag, Harley Quinn, and Deadshot be the main characters, but you can't have a character like Killer Croc just not have any presence the entire movie, and then when you get to the bar scene, act like everyone is like best friends with him and has like grown to love him.
That's
if
the
he
thing, like,
didn't have a character, but he was just there to be the muscle, that'd be fine.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Like, you can't anchor it on those three. The issue is just more so, like, if you're going to anchor it on those three, then every side character needs to reveal something about those main three. El Diablo needs to be a character that makes us understand Harley, Deadshot, and Flag more, in the same way Killer Croc needs to be a character that reveals more about those three. The side characters can be there for set dressing, but they should also move along the things that we don't care about to help enhance our main three characters. That's just how you write. So it's really weird that, like,
or at least have something to do with
others and not even bother to tie it together.
Yeah.
Can I complain a second for this about this reoccurring like it's for the fans thing?
Yes.
Because they yes, and I'm so tired of this. Stop saying it is not for the fans. As a fan, I can tell you it's not for the fans. For the fans and not for the then it would be it would be 100 would not explain anything, know everything because you're a fan. Made for fans. These are films that are made for the general public, built out of properties that fans like. It is not. These are not made for fans.
Yeah, I mean, just because Eric and I both read lots of Suicide Squad, we both love Deadshot. We know these characters, and if you're going to say that this is for the fans, well, as a fan, I'm telling you, you didn't do anything that I'm a fan of. So what is really your argument?
Yeah.
I mean, Deadshot's defining character trait is that he wants to die.
Yeah, that's not here anywhere. Will Smith did an okay performance, and they wrote a character that's interesting, but they didn't write Deadshot. So he has no right to say that his Deadshot was for the fans. So I guess we don't necessarily have too much more to say. If people have questions in the comments, go ahead and start putting them in there. Before we move on to those questions after we get them, I just want to know from you guys, where does DC go from this? Because sure, this movie will make money, but it's going to die off really quickly, I bet you. But even so, you've got a Superman movie that half the people hate, half the people love. You've got BVS, which has a 27 score on Rotten Tomatoes, and you got this, which has a 26. Like, DC is not making anywhere near the money they want to with these movies, and not enough people are liking them.
Honestly, so that's not fair. I think this is the best of movies they've made.
I don't know if it's necessarily the best. I don't know if I'd watch this again.
I really don't like Man of Steel, but I don't know if this movie's better than Man of Steel. It's
Yeah.
kind of a toss-up. I would much rather watch this movie over BVS and Man of Steel, I think, but I think that it might be a little bit worse than Man of Steel.
And you know they're going to screw with Wonder Woman after this, right? Like, you know they're going to do something to that movie to try and be like, they probably made that movie and then screwed with it after BVS, and then realizing that screwing with Suicide Squad because of BVS didn't work, so they'll try to unscrew with Wonder Woman, and it'll probably end up like this, and I don't want it to.
They'll cast like Kevin Hart as Steve Trevor or something like that. They'll like recast Kevin Hart as Steve Trevor.
They'll reshoot everything with Chris Pine with Kevin Hart.
One of the
Mocap.
one of the biggest problems I think for DC right now, or for Warner Brothers, one of the big problems I think they're facing right now is we have 2 more movies before we actually get to see what, because of whether people like BVS or not, the majority of people did not like it, and Warner Brothers is very aware of that. And they are changing the direction of their universe. Justice League already was in production and being made by the time they made this decision, and by the time that Jeff Johns took over, because Jeff Johns is now head of DC Entertainment. We are not going to see the effects of that until after Justice League. So right now, we're kind of in a waiting game until we see what happens after those two. Because that's really what the rest of the DC films are going to be like.
Yeah, because I mean, Justice League is going to be reactionary, but it can only be so reactionary when post-production started before BVS came out. Or pre-production, I mean, started before BVS came out. Yeah, it's going to be really awkward to see where a lot of this goes. I don't know. When I was talking to Captain Logan about this the other day, I said that like there's no way they're going to stop making these movies. So what they're doing is they're doing Lego Batman. They're throwing batarangs constantly, and at one point it's going to hit a green light, and they're going to be like, first try. And that will be their universe now. And that final batarang that finally hits it is going to probably be Ben Affleck's Batman movie.
Yeah. Oh my God. This is really sad. It's really depressing.
It is. I don't know what they do, honestly. Like I don't really know like how you handle Wonder Woman and Justice League after the reception to Suicide Squad, because regardless of how good or bad those movies are, you're gonna lose a big audience just from making 3 movies back to back that a lot of people didn't like.
Yeah, and it's weird that Oh, go ahead, Eric. Go ahead, Ed.
I was just gonna say, if Wonder Woman and Justice League, if the pre-scores are down in the 30s and 20s like BVS and Suicide Squad, I might just wait for Redbox on those 2 films.
I'm not seeing them. I'm not seeing any of these movies in theaters again unless someone forces to and pays me, or until they like hit DVD for $5. Like I'm done with this continuity.
It's like I think Warner Brothers is falling victim to like the sunk cost fallacy, where like because they've invested so much time, they're like, oh well, we have to keep going now. Okay, it's not worth restarting. It really might be worth just restarting. It might, or maybe wait till like after Marvel has done like Infinity Wars Part 1 and 2, and then you restart. Like that honestly might be the best way to go about fixing this universe, because right now
just keep Ben Affleck as Batman and what's his name is Alfred, and just go from there.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Jeremy Irons.
Yeah, I don't know. They're clearly trying to like catch up to Marvel as quickly as possible. And I mean, I'll give them Phase 1 of Marvel had rocky elements to it, but even if people don't necessarily love those movies now, there were big hits when they came out. Like Phase 1 was to the public and to the box office a massive success in the way that none of these DC films have been. they're grossing a lot initially, and then they're all dying off. And I guarantee you, Warner Brothers is not upset about the fact that they're making a certain amount of money. They're upset about the fact that these reviews are costing them what could potentially be twice that amount of money. If BVS was like a 80 or even like a 70 on Rotten Tomatoes, it would have broke $1 billion easy. But it wasn't. And it hurt that movie. Bad word of mouth really counts, and I don't know how long they're going to try and just stretch it out and coast on a couple weekends of good box office.
Yes. Soundwave
Now,
71.
all of this...
Go ahead, Eric.
Sorry.
That's fine.
I was going to say, all of this being said, I was at work today, and a guy came with a 4-year-old daughter, and they'd just seen Suicide Squad, and they loved it, and she said she was going to be Harley Quinn for Halloween, and that El Diablo was a great character.
Well, that's interesting. My theater didn't react to that movie at all. Like, everyone walked out kind of bummed. No one laughed at a single joke, so...
Yeah, it was kind of like that both times. There was like 3 jokes that people laughed at the entire movie.
I remember people laughing at Batman punching Harley in the face underwater.
Yeah, so
everyone else was following the whole movie.
Soundwave 71 asks if what are our thoughts on people saying that Marvel paid off the critics to give bad reviews of Suicide Squad?
Look, if they're paying off critics, I still have a 3-year-old phone, and I love Civil War, so send something to me.
I mean,
there's no. These movies are not good enough for them to need to pay critics to downvote them. Now, I do think it's very possible that this film worse critical reaction because critics hated BVS and because maybe they were angry at the backlash from fans for attacking them. I think it's possible that now critics do have a bias against the DC films because they've been bad, and so they're going and expecting them to be bad. I think that's possible. I don't think Marvel's paying anyone. I don't think they need to.
I think that's a fair assumption. I mean, because a critic just does their job. They have to see everything, and even if something isn't to their taste, they're going to have to review it, and so that creates a little bit of a mixed response from them. And so the fact that we're getting nothing but superhero movies, if you get a critic that never really cared about superhero movies, it's just not to their taste, then they're going to have a problem like reviewing them to the best of their ability. And then you get to something like BVS, where you're not a superhero person, and you didn't like the movie, and then people are trashing you all day, every day for not liking this movie. Then you walk into Suicide Squad, it's hard to even care enough to give it a fair shake. And I feel like Wonder Woman's going to have to deal with that too, where like the entire cast of Suicide Squad is coming out and just insulting critics point blank in interviews. I don't know how anyone who gets paid to watch these movies is going to go into Wonder Woman and give it a fair shake unless it's Dark Knight level.
I mean, I keep seeing people that like BVS not liking Suicide Squad. Like, I've seen a lot of people vocally say, like, I hated Suicide Squad and I liked BVS. I mean, I think...
I've seen a couple of that, too. There's on my review for Batman vs. or my analysis of Batman vs. Superman on my channel, there are a lot of people that defended BVS, and when I posted my video on Suicide Squad, those same people were telling me how much they hated that movie.
Well, and there's something to be said for the fact that 2 films in a row now, the cast, crew, and fans have violently gone after... Well, not literally violently, but have angrily gone after critics and saying, these movies aren't for you. Like, why would you even bother and see these movies? And obviously, like, if you have to, why... If they're not for you, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's tough, like, having even like a fair reaction to some of this stuff, because a part of even like just going on the internet like this and reviewing a movie like we do, there are still people that are like really fanatical about it on both sides, and so it's hard to go into any of these movies just as a person, not being colored by like this constant war and discussion where if you liked it you feel bad, and then if you didn't like it you feel bad.
Yeah.
Um, so I kept saying that we wanted to like front load this with positives, but it never quite happened. So one of the things I will throw out though is I kept saying I didn't want Will Smith as Deadshot. I kept saying I didn't like that idea. With the material he's given, I think he's good. I think he turns in a performance that could be Deadshot if he had a better script. I love the costume. I don't understand the mask thing like Eric was talking about before. Like it's weird that he takes it off, leaves it, and then puts it on, and leaves it again. But the costume looks great, and I think if you gave him like the straight comic book Deadshot character, Will Smith could do it, and he could probably deliver those Deadshot style "why don't you just shoot them" kind of quotes really well.
Yeah,
I was surprised by Will Smith. I thought he did a really good job. I like, on the page he is not the Deadshot comic book character, but with the performance he's giving, I think he easily could be if that was what was on the page.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Will Smith demonstrated why he's like a Hollywood A-list actor with this movie, like why he's a leading man. Like it was a strange thing because you would expect the worry I think everyone had was like, oh man, is Will Smith going to come across as this super like charismatic guy that you'd want to be a friend with but be Deadshot? Like how, like I think that was the worry. A lot of people thought that he was going to be too charismatic, and he was able to totally turn that down, not in a way where he's like off-putting, but in a way where you can see why this is like clearly not a happy chipper fellow. And it's very apparent why people necessarily wouldn't like him in his personal life and stuff like that. I don't know. I really bought into that.
Yeah, I think with what they're given, pretty much everyone's well cast. I think the two big exceptions are Amanda Waller, Viola Davis, and Jared Leto, Joker. Jared Leto Joker mostly because his best scenes are cut, and so it's hard to react to this performance. But given everything he did on set, hyping up this performance, what you go into and see in this movie is just really, really underwhelming, and that weird Richard Nixon impression just doesn't do it for me. And then Viola Davis has gone on record and said that she was really put off by Leto during the production of this movie. I feel like she didn't want to be there, and it showed in her performance.
I didn't know that about the Leto stuff when I saw the film, and I walked out of the film thinking she did not want to be in this movie. I think she's a great actress. I think she was a great pick. It felt like she did not care. No presence in this film. We keep getting lines about like how she's scary. She's not. She does not have presence in this film. The cartoon character version of this of Amanda Waller is scarier than Viola Davis was.
And I think most of it just comes from the fact that they wrote a character that's nothing but stern, and Amanda Waller has really interesting, deep-seated issues that make her this way. They literally, in the way this looks, is that they didn't give that actress anything to work with, and she's essentially to Suicide Squad what like General Ross would be in Civil War or Incredible Hulk, where like she's just a plot device.
Yeah. About the Jared Leto thing, if you go on the internet right now and look at stuff that Will Smith has said about working with Jared Leto, he has been so vocal about how much he hates Jared Leto from working with him on this movie. It's
Really?
hilarious. Like,
That's interesting. I didn't know that. I haven't heard him say much.
no, like he came out and said, no,
Well,
I
yeah,
straight
well,
up don't like that
before-
dude. And then he like his like PR guy was like, "Oh no, he meant this. He didn't mean that he hates Jared Leto." And then Will Smith came out again and was like, "No, I don't care what my PR guy said. I hate Jared Leto. He's horrible, all this stuff." And I'm like, "Oh my god."
Is that true? That's awesome.
I'm being completely honest. Like that's straight up stuff that. Yeah, Matt just put the quote in the chat. Blank Jared Leto in his 30 seconds to Mars BS, Will Smith. That's actually what he said.
That's hilarious. Wow, that's hilarious.
So.
Well, it's funny because before the movie came out, Will Smith was saying, "Oh, I never met Jared Leto. When we were on, I only met the Joker." Like, feeding into that, like Jared Leto was always in character kind of a thing. But it's kind of funny to afterwards for him to just be like, "Yeah, screw that guy."
Wow, that's hilarious. I don't know, because you guys mentioned this in your how you felt about it, but like, it seems really weird to not know where Joker's going after this, because we have no set date on the Batman movie. We know that Ben Affleck's taking his sweet time writing it with Jeff Johns because he wants to make it good. Jared Leto wants to be in that movie, but I don't know if Ben Affleck wants him in it. Also, if Ben Affleck's directing, I really feel like Jared Leto would not get away with half the stuff he got away with in this movie. But we might see him in Batman. We don't know. He's not in Justice League, I don't think. He's not going to be in Wonder Woman, obviously, because it's World War I, and I doubt they're doing Endgame-style Joker. So where is he going next? You cast an actor that's able to play this character consistently for at least 5 to 10 years, and we have no idea where he's going to be within the next 5 years.
Yeah, there were rumors that people have seen him on set of Justice League.
And this movie was sold on him.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what'd you say about the rumors he was on the set of Justice League?
There was a rumor that people have seen him on set of Justice League. I don't know how true those are, but I've seen multiple places people saying that, so I don't know. I imagine it will be just as small of a role as it was in Suicide Squad, if that's the case.
That's interesting. It'd be cool to get like a Batman Nightmare sequence where like Jared Leto makes a cameo or something. But I don't know. I wasn't crazy about his Joker, so we'll see like if other directors can work with that take. I know he said that like he's really annoyed about all the cuts and that he doesn't understand. Well, he doesn't even know like if most of the Joker stuff's in the movie, and that he wants all of it to come out in service, and that they did a lot of experimentation with the take. I wonder if with everything all the reviews this movie's getting, if Jared Leto is actively trying to like negotiate more deals with Warner Brothers, because he seems like the kind of guy that doesn't let things go. Like, I feel like at this moment right now he's hounding DC to get more Joker out there.
Maybe they'll start doing like DVD shorts, and we'll just get like a Joker short.
We could, yeah. It'd be nice to get something like maybe we could make another Killing Joke adaptation with Ben Affleck and Jared Leto and see how that goes for 20 minutes.
Or we could just have Joker in prison, and we can have All Hail the Prince.
Yeah, we could do that too. Okay, I don't have much else to say. Are there any questions in the comments, Rask? I'm not seeing much.
Some people are saying that apparently those Will Smith things about Jared Leto were from a comedy site. I don't know. I didn't see the actual website, but I know that the first set of things where he was saying that he doesn't like that dude, I know those were true. Then a second set of things came out that may have been fake, but I know he was like on Good Morning America. Like there was like a behind-the-scenes interview with him, and you can't find the video, but like they asked him about Jared Leto, and he said that he straight up doesn't like that dude. Then later on, maybe those things about like him hating 30 Seconds to Mars, that might not be real, but I've never seen the article. Somebody was reading it to me, so I don't know.
Okay, well that's interesting. I kind of hope that's true because that's hilarious. So I'm not seeing much else here. Is there anything else you guys want to mention before we call it a night?
I have one thing.
Okay.
If Batman doesn't want to do this in front of Deadshot's daughter, why didn't he just wait Deadshot wasn't with his daughter?
I don't know. I hated that scene.
That
really
seemed unnecessary.
I don't understand like why you'd say you're not going to do this in front of your daughter and then let the kid stand between you and a bullet. Like, this Batman's just a jerk.
And that would like get one of his villains and start like hitting them with their arm and be like, "Stop hitting yourself! Stop hitting yourself!"
I also just because we're on Batman kick with that post-credit scene and with Justice League. Every time I'm seeing Affleck now, for some reason, it's playing like he's making fun of Batman. Like that post-credit scene, he's got like his eyes are bulging out of his head. And he's like barely moving his mouth. It looks like he's making fun of Batman as he's playing Batman. I don't know if that's just me, but it really feels like they're trying to make the weird Batman voice and play it up for comedic value.
I think that's just you. I've rewatched the Justice League trailer since you told me that. I don't see it. I don't think he's making fun of Batman.
Maybe not. I don't know. For something about it makes it feel like they're making Batman's antics the joke. I don't know. All right, Rask, is there anything else you want to mention at the end?
No.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and call it a night. Thanks everybody for watching. Thanks for all the comments. Let us know what you thought of Suicide Squad in the comments. Where do you think this whole DC movie universe is going? Whether or not where you rank this between the 3 films we've gotten so far, and whether or not you want to see a sequel to it. Thanks everybody for watching. This was Eric.
Give me my Captain Boomerang movie.
And this was Rasco.
Bye.
And we'll see you next weekend.